Squad Quadwitch! This sentence is a full freaking paragraph. Rebecca, we had 2 short sentences in a row. It's even got the popular, because I feel like this could describe most male main characters. We are talking about Rebecca Yarrows' Fourth Wing and how it became such a big success by breaking down the very first chapter, specifically the first line of the book and the first couple of pages. So I'm going to be reading it and breaking it down as we go. So let's talk about it. Rebecca Yarrows' book, The Fourth Wing, was published in 2023, and it was kind of like an overnight sensation. For those of you who were on Book Talk at the time, which I was, it went from never having heard the book before to literally every single person on my timeline, on my newsfeed, on my whatever, was talking about it. And they loved it so much. And people were having like book parties where they would get together and they had these themed parties with the different dragons and stuff like that. These are adult women that were having these parties. The only time I have ever seen that happen since then, or the only time I have ever seen that happen before, was when Twilight came out. And we all know what the culture was around Twilight. People either loved Twilight or they absolutely hated Twilight. There was no in between. You were in one camp or the other. So this book has kind of done the same thing. And Twilight fans, Twilight besties, I got you. We're still besties. It's okay. So we're going to go through the first chapter, looking very specifically, figure out where to put my phone. Very, very specifically, the first pages of the book, because this would have been what the editor saw for the very first time, and that was what got the manuscript requested. So we're going to look at those first couple of pages. Just a word of warning. I try to keep this family friendly, so I do not say the swear words. So instead of, the actual F word, I will just say F. And instead of the actual S word, I will just say S, and I will assume that you will know what I am talking about. So on and so forth. But yeah, and also one other note, I listened to this book. And so listening to something and reading it yourself also is a major difference. With the different senses, of course, looking and reading versus listening. But also reading out loud is another layer. So if you're a writer and you're wanting to get as many perspectives as possible on your book and its readability, listen to it through something like Speechify, or have somebody read it out loud to you so that you can listen to it. And they can also give you feedback on how it feels with the speech patterns as well, because speech patterns are a huge part of that. And then you can read it. So anyway, that all to say, this is the first time I'm reading a physical copy of the book and not just listening to it. So let's dive in. All right, first, I just want to say that the illustrations for the book, this is a library book. No judgment, but this is a library book, so I can't take the cover off. But we have some really beautiful illustrations here of the continent, of the breakdowns. I think Red Tower Books, which is another video I'm going to do about how Red Tower Books is just freaking killing it in terms of picking winners. It is wow. I'm surprised at how successful Red Tower Books has been in picking New York Times bestsellers, and then with the marketing and the publication, the actual physical production of the books is chef's kiss. Absolutely amazing. Okay. So we've got that beautiful on the back cover, and then we have a beautiful map of Basgiath War College, which I think it really does look nice. It looks really good. All right, so this is not the first line, but this is a note at the beginning of the book, which does create quite a bit of intrigue, and I really like it. It's very similar to a book series called The Passage, which is, it's good. If you like apocalyptic type vampire stories where the vampires are not like Anne Rice Lestat vampires, or more like true monsters, check out that series. It's really good. All right, so we've got the first line. Here we go. I've got to hold the book in a weird place so that I don't cover the microphone. Anyway, okay. The following text has been faithfully transcribed from a Navarian into the modern language by Yesenia Neilwart, curator of the Scribe Quadrant at Basgayath War College. All events are true, and names have been preserved to honor the courage of those fallen. May their souls be commended to Malek. So I'm going to come back. We're going to talk about that in a minute, because that was added, I believe, after she put the manuscript in. Okay, anyway, whatever. All right, here we go. And this is where we get the famous line that is everywhere, all over social media. A writer without... I do that wrong every time when I try to quote that. Here we go. Let's try that again. A dragon without its rider is a tragedy. A rider without its dragon is dead. Article 1, Section 1, The Dragon Riders Codex. Chapter 1. Conscription Day is always the deadliest. Maybe that's why the sunrise is especially beautiful this morning, because I know it might be my last. Okay, we're just going to pause because I want to talk about first lines. Rebecca Yarrows is very, very good at creating captivating and interesting first lines. The first line of this: Conscription Day is always the deadliest. Let's talk about context clues so that we know as a reader what's happening, what's coming up. Conscription is normally a military term. That's normally how it's connected to people in our society. So we know this is going to be a military thing. We know that the conscription day is the most deadliest. So that means that it's not just deadly. It's not just this instance that's deadly. It's the deadliest. So we know that we're going into a world where death and why can't I think of the word for it? Violent. There we go. Death and violent society that we're about to join, So in that one line, we get an idea that this is a military book. We're about to jump into a story with a heck of a lot of violence because this is the deadliest day. And then we get the juxtaposition of her enjoying the beautiful sunrise, which is very true. When you experience this in life, if you know it's going to be the very last time or the last time you're going to see something or do something for a very long period of time, you know that that feeling is very bittersweet and very intense. So she's going into this moment with an idea that she could be dead. So she's looking at the sunrise and enjoying the sunrise. One thing I did notice though is that, let's read on because she's not just standing there enjoying the sunrise. All right. I tighten the straps of my heavy canvas rucksack and trudge up the wide staircase of the stone fortress I call home. My chest heaves with exertion, my lungs burning by the time I reach the stone corridor leading to General Sorengale's office. This is what 6 months of intense physical training has given me: the ability to barely climb six flight of stairs with a 30-pound pack. I'm so effed. The thousands of 20-year-olds waiting outside the gate to enter their chosen quadrant of service are the smartest and strongest in Navarre. Or Navari. I'm not sure how you do it. Okay. Hundreds of them have been preparing for the Writers' Quadrant, the chance to become one of the elite since birth. I've had exactly 6 months. The expressionless guards lining the wide hallway at the top of the landing avoid my eyes as I pass, but that's nothing new. Besides, being ignored is the best possible scenario for me. Basgayath War College isn't known for being kind to, anyone, even those of us whose mothers are in command. Every Navarian officer, whether they choose to be schooled as healers, scribes, infantry, or riders, is molded within these cruel walls over 3 years, honed into weapons to secure our mountainous borders from the violent invasion attempts of the kingdom of Poromil and their griffin riders. The weak didn't survive here, especially not in the Writers' Quadrant. The dragons make sure of that. Okay, I have some issues. And I didn't realize I was going to have issues this early on. So, like I said, I listened to this book. It's much easier to listen to a book and not catch things, especially if the narrator is really good, because they have a natural cadence and they have a natural cadence to their speech. Here's the problem. Reading this, okay, guys, this is a full sentence. And if you watched my video on Gothicana, you understand how much this drives me crazy. If you want to go watch it, I'll link it below. But like, I cannot stand it when sentences are this long. Okay, we start the sentence here. We end the sentence. Where is it? Where is it? I can't see it. Okay, writer's quadrant. The second line of the next page. The second line of the next page. Sorry, I'm reading. This sentence is a full freaking paragraph. It makes it very difficult to read, especially to read out loud, because there's a natural cadence to the way that we speak. And if you have it too long, then it interrupts that natural cadence and we are unable to continue forward without fumbling. The narrator for this book must have been hella good, because this is, what the heck, man? Rebecca, editor of Rebecca's. Why? Okay, here we go. All right, I'm gonna keep going. You're sending her to die. A familiar voice thunders through the general's thick wooden door, and I gasp. There's only one woman on the continent foolish enough to raise her voice to the general, but she's supposed to be on the border with the eastern wing, Mira. As I force the heavy door open and the weight of my pack shifts forward, nearly taking me down. S. This is an instance where it could have very easily been broken into two sentences and it would not have done anything, but it would have done something. It would have made it a lot easier to read. A little bit easier in terms of vocal cadence. So Mira shouts as I force the heavy door open, period. The weight of my pack shifts forward, nearly taking me down. It also creates a separation of actions. So she's pushing the heavy door open, and she is also having this experience where the pack moves her forward. So yeah, like this isn't difficult. Like, why did they, whatever, it's fine. Okay. Contrary to what is sounding like right now, I do actually really like this book. I'm kind of struggling. Okay, here we go. The general curses from behind her desk, and I grab onto the back of the crimson upholstered couch to catch my balance. Why was that sentence so difficult? The general curses from behind her desk, and I grab onto the back of the crimson upholstered couch to catch my balance. I think it's because the number of C words in a row. Crimson couch catch. But I can handle my rucksack, and I will handle myself. Oh, Violet. Worried brown eyes look down at me as strong hands brace my shoulders. Hi, Mira. A smile tugs at the corners of my mouth. She might have been here to say her goodbyes, but I'm just glad to see my sister for the first time in years. Years? Jeez. That's rough. Huh. Mom braces her hands on the immaculate surface of her desk and leans in slightly as she stands, looking us over with narrowed, appraising eyes that mirror the dragons carved into the furniture's massive legs. Freaking hell! Another paragraph that is one sentence. Rebecca! Starting to sound like Klaus in the originals. Rebecca! I don't need the prohibited power of mind reading to know. Okay, here's the thing. I never realized she dropped this here. This becomes important later on. I don't need the prohibited power of mind reading to know exactly what she sees. Okay, so we're being given some context clues here that I never realized were there. We're learning that the power of mind reading is prohibited. And we know that magic is going to be a part of this, like powers. So up until this point, there has been no real indication that this is a magical world other than dragons. So there's our first indication that there's stuff like that. It's happening on page 3. It's not bad. All right. Oh, one other note that I wanted to make is I feel like Rebecca has done a pretty dang good job of interweaving exposition into like information into the story without having it be info dumpy. Now, I know that in the parapet, she does get a little info dumpy, but I think she does a fairly good job of explaining it away and making it not seem weird. But here we get the idea that she is weak, that she has a problem, that she is not seen her sister in years, which means that she doesn't have a great relationship, without being specifically told this is Violet's mother. We figure out that it's mother, and we get her name. That is one thing that I have been had pointed out to me in my stories, is that I don't give them name of the main character until way too far into the story. So you don't know whose perspective you're coming from. So we get her name on the second page, that her name is Violet, and it's her sister that's saying it. So in terms of writing, this is really good in bringing together everything without making it feel like you're being dropped all of this information because you're stupid and you can't pick up context clues, which is what I feel like a lot of writers do. They feel like, oh, I can't just write a good story and interweave the details because my readers are not going to understand because they're stupid. That's not the case. All right. She's everything I'm not. And the disapproving shake of Mom's head says she agrees. I'm too short, too frail. What curves I do have should be muscle, and my traitorous body makes me embarrassingly vulnerable. So we know she's very self-conscious about her physical issues. Now, the author, Rebecca, never really comes straight out and says what she has. But I believe it is a type of tendon issue where your tendons are extremely loose, and it can be very painful because your muscles can't hold on, and so joints will pop out of place, or there's a lot of inflammation and a lot of pain that comes along with this type of a issue. I don't remember what it's called, but I know Rebecca does struggle with something very similar, and she's been kind of criticized for not showing it in a realistic light. And I think that this goes more to Rebecca's psychology. She would like to be someone who is strong and powerful. And so she wrote a character who has the same problems as she has, but is strong and powerful in her own right and is able to work through her issues that way. I think that is a beautiful reason to write. And this is fantasy. So of course we're going to have a fantastical element to this, that yes, it would be nice if just working out would make it better. But I know that she's come under fire pretty significantly because she doesn't show it exactly realistic to the way it is in the real world. But this is fantasy, and what better fantasy than to have one where you can fully overcome your issues and your physical limitations to become something better and bigger than yourself. That's my idea. Okay. Moving on. Oh my gosh, we're on page 3. I'm supposed to read to page 20. We may not get there. Or the library Dad made my second home. Once she'd been stationed here at Basgayath as an instructor, and he as a scribe. Okay. Major problem that I am starting to have with her writing. She needs to freaking figure out how to say a sentence shorter than an entire paragraph. This is so difficult to get through because of that. But I listened to it and it was perfectly fine. I didn't notice anything like amiss or weird. But now I'm feeling like, geez, freaking hell. Okay. It helps that their bonded dragons roast people for fun. Yes, her customary composure slips. And if you dare walk into that tunnel toward the scribe quadrant! Sorry, I'm so sorry. Okay, the scribe quadrant today. I will rip you out by that ridiculous braid and put you in the parapet myself. Keep my mouth shut. Arguing will get me nowhere. Oh, good job. We had 2 short sentences in a row. I like that. She's never listened to a damn thing I've had to say before, and today is no different. Double standard for the win. So I understand why people have an issue with stuff like this. Rebecca is throwing modern day vernacular, modern day isms into this book, and they don't like it. They feel like, oh my gosh, nobody would say that. Like double standard for the win. I know we're in Mira's head in first, or not Mira's, sorry. We're in Violet's head, first person limited. So this isn't like first person where you're getting it. Like I'm writing a book right now that's first person, but it's I can't think of the word right now. But I'm not giving every internal thought and feeling that she has. She's doing a lot of action, and I describe a lot of things that way through action and whatnot. But this is a very different style of writing. It's a very popular style of writing right now. That's why I said this is pop culture writing. This is writing that is very poppy. It's very into what's going on right now in our culture, the vernacular, the language, different types of ideologies. That's very popular here, and so it's going to be here in this book because this is Rebecca's style of writing. Now, up to this point, I believe she's only written contemporary romance. If that is wrong, please drop it in the comments and let me know if that's wrong. But I think she's only written contemporary romance, so she hasn't had to really write a different way than the modern day vernacular because she's writing in modern day and it's all happening right now. So critics that say that they really dislike the fact that she's writing it this way, I feel like you need to like kind of understand the style a little bit better than just, poo-pooing on it because it says double standard for the win. Like, come on. You wouldn't have a problem if she said that out loud, but because she's thinking it, whatever. Okay, moving on.
She's not strong enough, Mom. She's already broken her arm this year. She sprains some joints every other week, and she's not tall enough to mount any dragon big enough to keep her alive in a battle. Seriously, Mira? What the hell?
I cringe as the temperature in the room plummets, courtesy of Mom's storm-wielding signet power she channels through her dragon, Aesmir. Aesmir? Sure. I just keep thinking of like D&D, Aasimar. My brain's like, okay. Okay, oh wait, I did have one thought. Okay, so this was very like info dumpy and a little bit confusing. So we've got Mom storm wielding signet power she channels through her dragon Aesmir. So we know now that there's a power that is channeled through her dragon, but I feel like that was way too much information to give in one single sentence. I feel like this should have been something that could have been hinted at still now and then gone to later, if that makes sense, like explained later in the chapter in the book. Because it's not, I feel like doing it in one page is kind of like meh. Room. In the 30 minutes I've been gone, all my personal items have been packed into crates that are now sitting stacked in the corner. Hydration is key. Just saying. All right. Heavy. I'm pretty quick with daggers though. Real damned quick. Lightning quick. What I lack in strength, I make up for in speed. So this is a moment where I feel like her description is getting a little interesting because we're now getting a lot of telling. Instead of us being shown like, yes, I'm pretty quick with daggers, and then later shown how quick she is, we're getting told she's really good with daggers. Like she's really quick, lightning quick. Like, it would have been, I feel like, feel like it would have been a little bit more impactful in this, in like discovering, like as a reader, we're all discovering her abilities. She already knows. She doesn't need to tell herself that she's damn quick, lightning quick. Like that's not really necessary. I probably, as an editor, I would have edited that out because it's not necessary for the moment, and it would make more sense for us to see how quick she is later. Now get changed while we sort out the rest of this mess. Okay, so I think I'm gonna skip a little bit because I don't want to. It's yeah. So I pretty much read an entire page or so. So we're getting a little dumpy now with information. I do think that Rebecca has tried very hard to include it in a natural way, like describing what the parapet is. I do still feel like there's no need for us to describe it and then later experience it, because I know that in just a minute it she gets to the parapet like up here in just a minute. Rebecca is I feel like doing an okay job with including exposition into the main story and trying to make it feel natural, but I do feel like we have an issue here with the fact that she's describing things that in regular conversation you would not be describing. She's using it as a literary tool to give us as readers information that we don't know already, but I feel like it's not necessary at this point. Because if she just said it's a tiny parapet, like 200 yards in the sky or whatever, like instead of giving these exact measurements, like it's 18 inches wide, 200 feet above the ground, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like it's a little much. And then the fact that she goes through the whole thing about the stories, this is a really intense, in my opinion, intense, because she brings so much attention to it, way of saying it's like a neon sign a little bit, saying this is important, so please pay attention to this right here, because blinking flashing lights, so I feel like there was not enough subtlety used in that moment. So yeah. But yeah, we're going on. So like she grabs her gear, she goes out. Her older sister, one thing that does happen that is very important is that Mira gives her a dragon scale, or like a dragon leather thing. What is it? What does she call it? Dragon scales, yeah. So she gives her a dragon scale like undershirt to protect herself going through, which does end up saving her life at one point in this beginning section. But like that's the big thing with this interaction with Mira, is that we get that Violet really doesn't know what she's doing. She brought all these things that she doesn't need, and then Mira gives her the dragon scales, gives her some advice, and shoves her out the door. And of course, her last piece of advice is stay away from Xaden Riorson, which we of course know, if someone says stay away from them, what's going to happen, because that's life, right? At least as a reader. Okay, so Dane. So we learn about Dane. He's the best friend. She gives a description of Xaden Riorson. He'll be a second year. But she says, go find Dane. Stay away from Xaden Riorson. He wants to kill us because our mother killed his father. So just stay away. And I know that this has really gotten a lot of flack in writing circles about the fact that it's like, you don't tell somebody, well, you have to know the history behind what's going on. Well, it's like, no, of course you don't tell someone who already knows these things. But as a reader, you do need to know. The thing that's very awkward with it is that Mira's saying it to Violet instead of Violet having an internal dialogue moment of recognizing Xaden Riorson's name and then putting the pieces together real quickly of, oh, the son of the traitor who mom killed. Like, that would have been much more interesting, or not interesting, but that would have been much easier to flow through versus having someone say it. Yeah, that's just, yeah. Anyway, okay. So she gets to the writer's quadrant. They all get in line with each other. There's a whole bunch of people that are, or not, sorry, not the writers. Yeah, she does join the writer's line. They're separating candidates out over the next couple of hours. Certain people are so exciting. So we also find out after a little bit that Mira's kind of famous. People do know her very well. So she's kind of a celebrity, and she's there, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, are you Mira Sorrengal? This is like, so Violet is feeling kind of shoved to the side, and she says one final thing to Violet before heading off. She says, don't die, Violet. I'd hate to be an only child. She grins and walks away, sauntering past the line of gawking candidates as word spreads of exactly who she is and what she's done. So that's fun. So she gets in line with a couple of other people, and they're kind of like bantering back and forth, talking about how excited they are. One of the men in the line is talking about how he had proposed to his girlfriend, or he's going to propose to his girlfriend, and he's been trying for this. And so yeah, so we're introduced to two friends, Rhiannon and Dylan. And Dylan is really, really excited, and he is waiting to propose to his girlfriend until after graduation because he thinks it's bad luck to propose before he went. So he has a ring with him. It's this very sweet moment. Then there's kind of like a back and forth, and it starts to rain. So when they get up to the top, for some reason, Violet feels the need to have Rhiannon switch boots with her. And so, not with her, sorry, she gives one of the boots to Rhiannon so that Rhiannon can walk across, because, you know, in the whole page that we've read, they become best friends. Besties. So they share, and they're trading a boot just until they get to the other side. They're very exciting. It's all very, very exciting. So this is the end of the chapter. So I'm going to read the last little bit now that she's at the top of the turret, and they're at the parapet. Okay. The top of the turret is bare. The crenellations of stone rising and falling along the circular structure at the height of my chest and doing nothing to obscure the view. The ravine and its river below suddenly feel very, very far. How many wagons do they have waiting down there? 5? 6? I know the stats. The parapet claims roughly 15% of the writer candidates. Every trial in the quadrant, including this one, is designed to test a candidate's ability to ride. If someone can't manage to walk the windy length of this slim stone bridge, then they sure as hell can't keep their balance and fight on the back of a dragon. And as for the death rate, I guess every other rider thinks the risk is worth the glory, or has the arrogance to think they won't fall. I'm not in either camp. Nausea has me holding my stomach, and I breathe in through my nose and out through my mouth as I walk the edge behind Rhiannon and Dylan, my fingers skimming the stonework as we wind our way toward the parapet. 3 riders wait at the entrance, which is nothing more than a gaping hole in the wall of the turret. One, with ripped-off sleeves, records names as candidates step out onto the treacherous crossing. Another, who's shaved all his hair with the exception of a strip down the top center, instructs Dylan as he moves into position, pointing to patting his chest like the ring hidden there will bring him luck. I hope it does. The third turns in my direction, and my heart simply stops. So here it is. In the first chapter, we have the introduction of Xaden Riorson. And I just want to say, it's a little stereotypical. Describe this, and if you can, as I read this section, if you can think of any other main character of a book that has come out recently in romantasy and pop culture that has this exact same type description, please drop it in the comments below, because I would love to hear who you think this sounds exactly like. Here we go. This can be book or movie. So get your thinking caps on if this sounds like someone you know from pop culture. He's tall with wind-blown black hair and dark brows. The line of his jaw is strong and covered by warm, tawny skin and dark stubble. And when he folds his arms across his torso, the muscles in his chest and arms ripple, moving in a way that makes me swallow. And his eyes are the shade of gold-flecked onyx. The contrast is startling, jaw-dropping even. Everything about him is. His features are so harsh that they look carved, and yet they're astonishingly perfect. Like an artist worked a lifetime sculpting him, and at least a year of that was spent on his mouth. He's the most exquisite man I've ever seen. Okay. I want you to tell me, who does that sound like? Who does that sound like? Except for the tawny skin, this description 100% felt like Edward Cullen to me. Like the way that she's describing him, it's like the most exquisite man I have ever seen. Like, and how she's like, oh, his eyes. That was so the same vibe with Edward in Twilight. Also, everybody's shadow daddy, Rhysand. I feel like this is Rhysand. This is just him. So tell me who you think it sounds like, because I feel like this could describe most male main characters, even the ones in my book, which makes me feel like I need to go back and like add some more like character to them, because I don't love the fact that they sound kind of similar. Anyway, okay, we're going on. And living in the War College means I've seen a lot of men. Even the diagonal scar that bisects. See, it's even got the popular like over scar, the brow thing that people do now. They just like shave it in that one spot. Sorry. It's not funny. Stop laughing. Even the diagonal scar that bisects his left eyebrow and marks the top corner of his cheek only makes him hotter. Flaming hot. Scorching hot. Gets you into trouble and you like it level of hot. Suddenly, I can't remember exactly why Mira told me not to F around outside my year group. See you two on the other side, Dylan says over his shoulder with an excited grin before stepping onto the parapet. His arms spread wide. Ready for the next one, Riorson? The writer with the ripped sleeves says. Xaden Riorson? Ready for this, Sorngal? Rhiannon asked, moving forward. The black-haired writer snaps his gaze to mine, moving fully toward me, and my heart thunders for all the wrong reasons. A rebellion relic, curving up in dips and swirls, starts on his bare left wrist, then disappears under his black uniform to appear again at his collar, where it stretches and swirls up his neck, stopping at the jawline. Holy, like Rhysand. Right? Am I crazy? Okay. I feel like this is turning into kind of like a crap on the book post. It wasn't meant to be this way. All right. Oh, S, I whisper, and his eyes narrow, as if he can hear me over the howl of wind that rips at my secured braid. Sorengale? He steps toward me, and I look up. And up. Good heavens. I also don't... Whatever, it's fine. Okay, whatever. I don't even reach his collarbone. He's massive. He has to be more than 4 inches over 6 feet tall. I don't exactly feel what Mira called... oh my gosh. I feel exactly what Mira called me. Fragile. But I nod once, and the shining onyx of his eyes transforms to cold, unadulterated hatred. I can almost taste the loathing wafting from him like a bitter cologne. Violet? Rhiannon asks, moving forward. You're General Sorrengail's youngest. His voice is deep and accusatory. You're Fen Riorson's son, I counter, the certainty of this revelation settling in my bones. I lift my chin and do my best to lock every muscle in my body so I don't start trembling. He will kill you the second he finds out who you are. Mira's words bounce around my skull and fear knots in my throat. He's going to throw me over the edge. He's going to pick me up and drop me right off the turret. I'm never going to get a chance to even walk the parapet. I'll die being exactly what my mother's always danced around calling me, weak. Xaden sucks in a deep breath, and the muscle in his jaw flexes once, twice. Your mother captured my father and oversaw his execution. Wait. Like he has the only right to hatred here? Rage races through my veins. Your father killed my older brother. Seems like we're even. Hardly. His glaring gaze strokes over me like he's memorizing every detail or looking for any weakness. Your sister is a writer. Guess that explains the leathers. Guess so. I hold his glare, as if winning the staring competition will gain me entrance to the quadrant instead of crossing the parapet behind him. Either way, I'm getting across. Mira isn't going to lose both her siblings. His hands clench in fists, and he tenses. I prepare for the strike. He might throw me off this tower, but I won't make it easy for him. You all right? Rhiannon asks, her gaze jumping between Xaden and me. He glances at her. Your friends? We met on the stairs, she says, squaring her shoulders. He looks down, noting our mismatched shoes and arches a brow. His hands relax. Interesting. Are you going to kill me? I lift my chin another inch. His gaze clashes with mine as the sky opens and rain falls in a deluge, soaking my hair, my leathers, and the stone around us in seconds. A scream rends the air, and Rhiannon and I both jerk our attention to the parapet just in time to see Dylan slip. I gasp, my heart jolting into my throat. He catches himself, hooking his arms over the stone bridge as his feet kick beneath him, scrambling for a purchase that isn't there. Pull yourself up, Dylan! Rhiannon shouts. Oh, gods. My hand flies to cover my mouth, but he loses his grip on the water-slick stone and falls, disappearing from view. The wind and rain steal any sound his body might make in the valley below. They steal the sound of my muffled cry, too. Xaden never takes his eyes off me. Xaden never takes his eyes from me, watching silently with a look I can't interpret as I bring my horrified gaze back to his. Why would I waste my energy killing you when the parapet will do it for me? A wicked smile curves his lips. Your turn. Okay, there's chapter 1. So, let's discuss. First off, my eyes watering. First off, I think I'm having an off day because I really struggled reading that. I don't normally struggle to read out loud that much, but I think I'm just having an off day because that was weird. My thoughts on Rebecca Yarrows and why her book was so successful. So we've got stuff in here that is 100% formulaic for making this book successful. We've got a weak, and she's weak, we've got a weak underdog who is set up for failure, it seems like. The people around her that know her well, all are worried about her ability to complete these trials, right? So, or not trials, but you know what I mean. So we naturally, especially, I think in America, we really love this idea of the underdog. So we have this underdog situation where she's coming in, she's weak, she hasn't had a chance to train. We know she's the main character, so we know she's not gonna die. But we're getting her everything from her perspective, where she is weak, fragile, small, unprepared, and nervous as hell to do this. But she has a very steely determination, I guess is a good word for it. And I think that's something that a lot of people identify with. They feel weak, they feel inferior, but they do want to have that level of determination that if they do want something, that they can go for it and they will not stop until they get it. So we've got that in a main character, which is very likable, and it's very easy to identify with that character. Also, with an immediate us versus them, where we're on the side of the main character because we're reading the story from her point of view, with the description of General Sorengale and Mira, we have an us versus them. That even though Mira does love her sister, there is a massive divide there. So we're immediately going to side with Violet and feel like she's getting picked on and all these people are being so mean and that she needs to show them the right way. So that is set up perfectly for us to love Violet. And there are a couple of key indicators that show that she does have heart. So she's likable. She shares her boots with Rhiannon. She's nice to Dylan, even though she is a little concerned about how happy he is, which we see by the end of the first chapter. He dies, so, you know, 'tis the way of Besgaiath. And then we meet, dun, 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 Xaden Riorson. So, Xaden, I see, even after having read the book, I struggle with Xaden because I feel like he is very much a two-dimensional character. And like I've listened to book 2 as well. I have not read it physically, but I did listen to it, and I just like the things that he does in book 2 make so much more sense than the things that he does in book 1. And there are these instances where I just feel like, why are you guys together? What is making the glue? Because being physically attracted to someone is not enough to make them the glue. Like, that's not glue. It's just not. I've been married for 15 years. I know that it is amazing and wonderful. It's not the glue that holds a couple together. It's the same problem that I had with Gothicana. And I think I railed on that one too, is that there's no glue to the relationship. So I felt like we were getting a lot of Xaden in a two-dimensional way. He's introduced in a very two-dimensional way. I think it would have been much more interesting to have Xaden Riorson not be the most attractive, sexy man, and maybe have him be a more boy next door kind of look, and have like the main bad guy in this book, and I don't want to spoil anything for anybody if you haven't read it yet, that he is the sexy, attractive one that seems like she should be in a relationship with him, because of our culture's feeling like the hottest people need to get together all the time. I think that would have been much more interesting, but it probably wouldn't get the hyper craziness that this book did get if it had been written that way. Like, you know, whatever. It's fine. So we get introduced to him in a very he's described very stereotypically. The only flaw that he had is a scar over his eye and his cheek, which is not much of a flaw considering in our culture today that's considered very attractive. So I do think Rebecca Yarrows is a good writer. I just think she needs to clean it up. Like, we need to shorten sentences, and we need to clean up descriptions, and we need to get rid of like half of the words that she's using to describe things. I think that would go a long way in making the book feel like it's clipping along at a better pace. Reading this out loud was really difficult for me. I read out loud every single day to my children. I normally don't have a single problem reading out loud. This one, for some reason, man, I really struggled. The natural cadence of speech is not there. It is not present in this book. Maybe it gets better later on. I do remember listening to it. I enjoyed the latter half of the book significantly better than the first half. So maybe it just gets better all around with that other half. So these are the things. This book was really set up for success. They had an incredible media marketing team. They did really, really good using Book Talk, TikTok, and Bookstagrammers and BookTube and stuff to get their book out there, to get her book out there. Also, the writing is done well in terms of integrating story. You guys heard my little nitpicky things. The characterization, which is what I'm all about here at the Novel Character, the characterization is very important. And it's something that I feel like she did a really good job with Violet in this very first chapter. Now going on, I do have issues with choices that she had Violet make throughout the series, books 1 and 2. There are certain instances where I just feel like, oh my gosh, is she really supposed to be a mature young woman, or are we still 15 years old in high school? But whatever, it's fine. Cool. Okay, so if you liked that, if you enjoyed that, please like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know. If you have a book that you would like me to break down the very first chapter of, or a different chapter that you really, really like, then please drop it in the comments. I would love suggestions on what books you would like to see me break down the writing style of, and talk about what makes it work and what doesn't. I hope you have a wonderful day. If and no one has told you today, you are worthy, you are loved, and happy reading.